Hey there, Monica Shah. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm also fine. It's again Friday, another Red Couch Talk, and I'm very pleased to have you here.
I love your red couch.
Thanks, thanks. I didn't introduce who you are, but I will give you some time to reintroduce yourself in a minute. But you're a one of my role models because you're a founder as well, and you founded your what is now a limited liability company, Children First, earlier than I did. So our paths crossed many, many times. And I would say I can call you a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, we met at ETH, didn't we?
Yeah, I think the first time we met was at a spouse career event. I was still working at PwC at the time, and you were one of the invited spouses.
That's right.
That's
And
how we initially met. And then we met again at a Bollywood party.
yes.
So, Monica, tell our audience a bit more about yourself and what we're usually interested in to find out a bit more about why you do what you do.
Well, I do what I do basically because I'm incredibly fussy about how I spend my time. So if I thought was lying in bed in the morning and I didn't want to get out of bed, or if it was too much like more work than it was worth it, I would find it very hard to get to work on time. So I basically needed something when I moved around the world that would really motivate me. And I decided it would have to be, something with meaning. And at the time, I had done my psychoanalytic diploma. I'd run a counselling centre, so I'd gone to senior management fairly young, sort of in my 30s. I can tell you how old I am now. And I just loved it. I loved the kind of having a organization I was responsible for, learning about management, applying it to services that would bring meaning into people's lives. I mean, basically, living life with meaning is what motivates me. I had to choose something that would have meaning, and children and family work is really varied. I do alongside the preschool and kindergarten and tutoring centre and all my educational work. I'm really interested in the quality of life of families, of people who, in this situation, have moved abroad. But it could be any situation, it could be any unique situation that is true for that community. And so, because I understood what these people had gone through or might go through from my own experience, and I had the background in child and family work, I just simply put these two things together and started providing a service there was obviously a need for, and that I could feel responsible for, and that I would feel that was really doing some good to the world. Because the minute that you teach a child, if you see them grow in front of your eyes, if they start to learn to walk and to talk and to read and to write, and then they do well at school. I mean, you just feel privileged to be part of that. So it's a very easy area to get involved in and to feel passionate about. Then I had my incredibly privileged background, which I mean, you haven't gone into it, but I had a great education. I had some early mentors who were really fundamental to my growth as a professional. Thinking of people like Isabel Menzies Live, I was privileged to meet in Oxfordshire when she hadn't retired, she was getting to the end of her career, and she'd done some absolutely pioneering work in nurses' hostels, looking at what were the motivating factors for those people to do their work and which things were really stressful, and when do you get lots and lots of sick leave, and when do you get depression, and when do you get too much, it's overwhelming. And she'd helped these nurses by getting on the floor and doing new shift plans. She'd helped them to re-envisage their service for children who were dying, which I thought was the most fantastically saintly, worthwhile work. It's really hard, that kind of work. And I feel that in Zurich, we have an expat population where people have really delved into their inner resources to move around the world. Very resourceful people, very, often very intelligent, very well educated. But even that can be challenging for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's why, we both have our businesses. And, jokingly, many years back, we said, we're like delivering support for the whole family system, from the baby, the 3-month-old baby, to the expat partner, to the expat, to their elderly family members. Like, we're trying to help the whole system, even the pets occasionally. Tell us a bit more about some of your influencers. I was actually very curious about that, because I don't think it's a topic we often talk about, you and I. And I was thinking, along the way, so what got you from England, London, to where you are today? And I don't mean like, how did you get on the train or the plane to come here, but who were the people who, influenced your major career decisions? So that professor you just mentioned, for example, a psychologist, who else, influenced your
path? One, and then I had a very visionary manager, Martin Stevenson, who used to run Cambridge Educational Services for dropouts, kids who basically have dropped out of school. And his special area was 16 to 19-year-olds. And he came into this charity where I was working. And he had certain mottos from management that I never forgot, like accountability is not the same as responsibility, or, you can find that there's a vacuum of responsibility between people in a team if no one's taking true responsibility. So it's really interesting. He sparked my interest in management in terms of organizations. And I think we had a really good exchange, because I was very young, and I remember him looking at me whizzing around the office and getting stuff out of the photocopier when we were about to get on a train. So basically about to expand this charity to like 40 education authorities in England and Wales. And it was the precursor to the academy movement, which is, a school development movement that started in the 80s. And he looked at me and he said, "Monica, do you realize that the train goes in like 25 minutes? I said, "I know, there's a taxi outside, we're going." I think he thought that I was just, that I had a nerve, that basically I was willing to sort of cut things fine, micro-optimize, without having a heart attack, just trying to get the most done in the minimum amount of time. And that sort of drive, the efficiency, the excitement of projects that are well run, that are well managed and well organized, but also his vision for a new organization. He came in new. It was an American-inspired organization. We needed to convert it across cultures to fit the British state model. And it was really difficult to do. And, I saw through him which things you can cut, which things you can't cut, how you have to be careful, where you have to be sensitive. So working under his leadership was very interesting. Of course, all the people around him who were good, because a leader is only as good as their team, as their advisors. So I learned a lot there, and that became Include, a very interesting charity in the UK. And then I had some other experiences that I think are fundamental, like you might well have heard I'm a bit of a workaholic. So it's a bit...
I'm so surprised.
It can be a bit difficult for me to stop working once I start. And I have to have cut-offs. So being a parent, bringing up a child in a foreign country, I had to go and pick up my son from daycare or from school. And it was my job more than my husband's job. So it was actually quite good for me, because I had to juggle this part-time working existence as a woman and a mother. What happened was I enjoyed it so much, this kind of juggle, and the way that I could get things done and, tick all the boxes of quality of life. That I decided that even though I'd never committed to doing this work in Zurich, I'd never said, I'm going to go and live in Switzerland for 20 years and do this work. It was just what happened was really satisfying and stimulating. And we went from, one or two projects to a big villa, from a 2-bedroom flat to a 20-room villa in one of the nicest parts of Zurich, which is, of course, the most expensive city in the world to live in. So I was very, very lucky to get it. And I never forgot this supervisor I had, who said to me early on in my career as a senior manager, he said, Monica, apart from the difficult feelings that you might have when you have to lock the door at 7 o'clock, when everyone else has gone home an hour before, what else is it that actually keeps you at work? And I looked at him, I kind of felt like my jaw dropping, and I realized that part of being a woman and really respecting emotions and really listening to people and being sensitive and being an empathetic manager means that I'd completely forgotten that you can actually put your feelings aside. You can say, those are my feelings about leaving work. This is my contract with my employer. This is how I feel about it. But the reality is I'm going to feel much worse if I don't go and pick up my son on time. So just that mental switch between being a mum and a kind of basically a single parent, and then having to take responsibility for the fact that if I let my feelings, my love of my work, my passion for my work get out of control, actually everything else would start to suffer. So it was a really, really interesting comment. And just this one sentence from that whole, supervisory relationship that must have been at least a year long. That was supervision that was set up in London by the Tavistock Clinic, which is where I trained, because several of the supervisors of my charity had come from this psychological background. So I would say that my psychoanalytic background has really had a big impact on my work. And those mentors, the women who were on the board of directors at the counselling centre, they all had vision. They all realised their vision through their charity work, through their educational work. Too many of them to name. I mean, several of them had a big impact on me. Handled situations very well. When you see people with very good political skills, or people who are basically not able to sort of come in and do the work on the ground, but they are sitting in a room for a directorial board meeting and trying to advise you. When you see how they take a perspective, what their comments are based on, where does the history come from, where is their heart, where do their aims come from? Some of the women at the counselling centre were keeping a safe domestic space for women who'd been abused, who were domestically abused or victims of violence or torture. And it was very serious stuff, very heavy stuff. But they never lost sight of the fact that a manager coming in who wasn't with that background necessarily would still have to find a way to relate to people who were dealing with some extraordinarily difficult and unique situations. There would still be a general management role behind the scenes for any specialist service. So those sorts of meetings, the comments that people made and the personalities I met have really been formative. Yeah, so I think that kind of answers your question. There have been lots of people who've contributed. Of course, my family have supported me. When I wrote my textbook, I was like 8 months pregnant by the time I finished it. And I remember going home after work, taking my work clothes off because I felt like a whale, putting on my dressing gown, sitting at the computer, finishing another chapter of the book. My sister was cooking downstairs for her, 2 or 3 kids by then. I think it was 3 kids by then. And she was full-time, they were basically a working couple. She was working, but she would cook after work. And then I would just simply nip down from my room in her house where I was for maternity leave, finishing up my senior management job, eat the food that she had provided, and then go back to my computer and finish my book. I mean, so you can't do all of those things if you don't have support from people.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, a lot of time has passed in between. You moved to Switzerland with the family, but your son is at uni now. I mean, we're talking about like 20 years time span. And some of the people watching this video, they're younger. So, especially younger women, maybe thinking about starting out on their own or starting their career path in a field related to what we do, either, in psychology, global mobility, intercultural management, diversity, equity, and inclusion, intercultural coaching, all of these like areas that have like, a connection to helping global people and their families. What would you say, based on your experience, and feel free to elaborate on, some examples that you have, what would you say is something you would tell a younger person today, maybe Gen Z, just thinking about these things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Firstly, know your customer. If you don't have a customer, if you don't have a client group whose needs you can address, you haven't got a business, you haven't got an organization, you haven't got a charity. You can't do it because you want to do it. A lot of people do social entrepreneurship because they want to see the world change. They think that we need this service or we need that service. What they mean is, I love this service, I love doing this work, come and buy it from me. Because even if it's a charity, you've got to have investors, you've got to have funders. So the first thing is, know your customer, know why people or organizations are going to pay for what you do, because it'll focus your mind. Second thing is, don't think of entrepreneurship as a risk. Entrepreneurship is not a risk. Entrepreneurship is calculating which risks you're willing to take.
I love
each
that.
risks, there will be a pros and the cons. There will be a greater degree, lesser degree, severe consequences, less consequences. Think it through. Do a good plan. Get the flip charts out, because if you don't calculate the risks, you might well find yourself with a nightmare on your hands, or you might end up closing it down or just losing your motivation. It's a pity. You want to go in with good planning. So that's the second thing. The other thing I would say is just small startups are always small at the beginning. Everyone starts with 1 or 2 people, right? No one has this great galaxy of venture capitalists who want to put money into their idea before it even starts. You have to work on your own. You have to get something off the ground. You have to work with a couple of friends. I remember setting up the Children First statutes of the non-profit organization until 1 o'clock in the morning, the day before my son's birthday, which normally would be the time that you're making the cake, right? Forget it. I don't know what he got that year, but we sat up till 1 in the morning doing bilingual statutes. It was super exciting. It was really good fun. I got everything in for the legal structure and the aims of the organization that we would need. And that was the deadline, and we did it. We hit it. So those couple of friends that you start up with, they help your thinking. And then the people you actually do the work with, once you can employ someone, you have to still get your hands dirty. You can't delegate everything and say, can you please go and do all of the dirty work that I don't want to do? You've got to do it all yourself. You've got to know every role in that first small team. I've been responsible for spotting there's a mess in the toilets and cleaning it up. And then you put a message out to the team saying, there was a mess, it needed cleaning, what happened? And then you do an analysis of what went wrong. If you don't do those basic things at the beginning, you will never have the respect of your team. So you've got to do that to grow a team. And then once you have more people and then you get more new people, unfortunately, you have to keep doing it again. Role modeling again, because those new people don't know you. You have to earn respect these days. Gen Z are right in many ways about people shouldn't get automatic respect just from being older or from being authority figures. I really think that you have to earn it. But having said that, you've also got to learn to talk about your work and explain why you do what you do and inspire people. Because if you can't tell people at a team meeting why something they're doing needs to be changed, you'll never be able to lead change. And those reasons why are not because I want it that way, or because other people have done it that way, or that's the way we've done it before. Those reasons are because our vision is, in our last team meeting here, the vision was, we're doing wonderful displays of the children's work, and we were talking about why do you have labels next to displays, like you have, the title of a piece of artwork, or the author, or the medium. Why do we do that? And I said, it's part of the cultural capital of kids, of communities. You can't have a portrait or a piece of artwork and not know where it comes from, what it means, what the title is, what it might have been about, what might be going through the artist's mind. If you can know that something, a little thing about that piece of art, then the people who look at that piece of art have suddenly got a way in, a way of interacting with the child who's done it, a way of talking about it with them, of understanding the culture of the place where that piece of artwork is hanging. So all of those things are the real reasons why we do things. And so in my field, it's things like, education and relationships. Relationships are very motivating. I'm a very social animal. But in other fields, it'll be something completely different. I don't know what people say who are leading financial funds. I've got no idea how a team meeting would go in that field. But in my field, it's things that motivate people, and that's the reason why they apply for the job in the first place. And we've got kids in front of us. Children tell the truth. So we've got the proof of the pudding is in the eating. When we're with the children, we're listening to them, we're teaching them to use language, to speak in many languages, to have a good attitude to learning in a multilingual city. We are listening to what's coming out of their mouths. And then they will talk, they will say the truth, they will tell us, they will exemplify everything that we've done. So I do think in my field, I have a bit of an easy job in my field. It's not, it's a pleasure and it's a privilege working with kids and families here. I never would have anticipated it, but that's how it went. And as always, we're growing and we're always trying to do more. I love, this model of continuous improvement, as well as just in time. There's always this, always improve. There's always more to do. You're never too old to learn. So these are the kinds of things that keep me motivated, and that I think other people would enjoy as well.
Yeah. And you also have an artwork behind you. So maybe you want to tell us a bit more about the artwork behind you. What is that about?
This is actually from a show which was done by Children First. With the children, we have wonderful backdrops created partly by our art teacher, Balbir Bangal. And we have kindergarten Christmas show, and sometimes it gets big enough for us to actually go and use a big community centre in Seefeld in Zürich, where I live. And I do think one of the great things about Switzerland is that you can just rent these community centres and everyone can come. It's like an open door. The security is not as difficult as it can be in other countries. You can still protect the children. You can have them there in an open public community centre on the stage. And, whether it's Commotion in the Ocean or, Alice in Wonderland or A Christmas Snowflake or whatever the play is, you can have all of the art and the productions, the props and the accessories that the children have created in the production. And it's just great fun.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Now, Monica, one thing I'm not sure about is, do you actually like social media? And if yes, which social media platform is your preferred one, and why?
Such a difficult question, Angie, because I kind of like it for the communication. I like the forums and the threads and the messaging and the debates. But to be honest, apart from that, I only really use LinkedIn. Isn't that boring? I like LinkedIn because I'm reading about people, about their careers, about the development of new services. They post interesting articles. I really hate LinkedIn when it becomes like ordinary social media, because then it just loses its edge from my point of view. I like the focus, But yeah, I'm afraid that's the only one I really kind of go into regularly.
Yeah.
I use the messaging, I read the articles, I look at networks when I'm on the tram on my phone,
Yeah. I will share your LinkedIn profile and also the profile to Family Matters, the blog where you write articles on, and also the website of Children First, which is, your main hub. Let's put it this way. We know there's others. You have other businesses too, so you're like a multi entrepreneur and a woman.
Yeah, but
and you also something that people might not think, but you also have a master degree in business, right? You went through an MBA as well.
I did an MBA course, and I didn't ever actually get the final certificate because I didn't do the big finance module that you're meant to do. I replaced it with marketing and with a few other things. So yes, I did. My father, my dear late father, had great trouble accepting that I wasn't going to do the big finance module and go and run some big corporation in the city of London. And I had to say to him, I'm sorry, Daddy, it's just not my cup of tea. I'm really happy with children and families and this kind of social work. And he eventually accepted it because he saw that Children First was a really worthwhile endeavor. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, and of course, I love the way that we learn visually increasingly through Instagram pictures, and there's a lot of good debate on other channels. I think the Family Matters Switzerland website is good. There's a lot of people have written on it, not just me. I'm just one of the educational columnists, or I was when it was running. But it's all still on the internet as far as I know. And if anyone wants any more information, I do talks on choosing schools and on how to bring up multilingual children. I think we've certainly got an event on the 2nd of March in Zürich, which is a place where people can actually come in person and buy tickets for a talk. But I'm happy to arrange other online talks now that I'm getting experience through talking to you.
Yeah, and we're going to organize a webinar with you as well that we're going to advertise also very shortly, where hopefully you can also help people a bit to understand what it means to bring children into the Swiss system as opposed to the international system, because your son went to the Swiss schools system as well.
Yes, he went through the Swiss system, as do most children at bilingual schools in Zurich. And really the international schools are teaching more languages now because obviously they can see you can't live anywhere in Europe really without speaking 2 or 3 languages. But what's incredible is that the children we have, like a quarter of our kids are speaking up to 4 languages at home. So it's no longer the minority, it's a growing number. Speaking, the 50% speak 2 languages or more, 40% speak 3 languages or more, and 17% speak 4 languages or more. It's incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Hard to
imagine. I'm so delighted to be contributing to that. And of course, our experience of the bilingual program in English and German is close to my heart because I've lived here. My background, actually, originally, my university degree was in English and French before I did the psychoanalysis. And my son speaks English, German, Swiss German, French, Italian, and now he's learning Arabic. So it's quite a phenomenal, range of languages that he's got an interest in. And I say to him, what about Hindi or Gujarati or Chinese, So let's see. But I think that the openness to learning languages is what children get very early on. And then the specific skills that you train them in to speak languages come from a whole range of other activities that are not directly language teaching. They have to get a lot of physical coordination, to be mobile, to be interacting with other little children, to be exchanging languages in different environments, and to swap friends from one language to another, to switch. That switching in the brain is very good and can help prevent dementia. Research has shown that now. So I think it's a very interesting topic. So yeah, delighted to talk with you about that and with your a network.
And you just mentioned you have an event coming up on the 2nd of March at Children First. Any other events or anything else you want to share with us?
Well, we've got our Christmas events coming up, so those are always good, and you'll probably see those on social media. So we'll have a Christmas party. We're inviting Sammy Klaus, the Swiss Sammy Klaus, to come to the early years centre in Freistrasse. We've got a little play school in Earlycon where there's a morning play group, so that's really good for people who have just moved and are they haven't yet worked out where they're going to put their child for daycare. So it's good for them to keep up the English or to get a bit of English if they haven't got enough yet. English is, of course, the second language in Canton Zurich, despite all the other Swiss languages that should be high priority. But it's the most useful because it cuts across all of the languages and creates a kind of lingua franca. I always love the way that phrase comes from when French was the official international language. So we've got that play school and they do events as well. We have that place available for birthday parties, but we also do Christmas and Easter and, community cultural events that families are welcome to come to. I think the next one is in early December, so you'll probably find the date on our website. If you go to Children First, then the dates for the play school in Earlycon are also on there. And then we have our tutoring centre, which is for students ages 7 to 18. And really that's focused on exam preparation until the beginning of March next year. So if children are going through, are in Swiss schools and they're facing the challenge of exams in the Swiss system and they need some support, then think of us, think of Fit for School.
Fantastic. It was great talking to you, Monica, and I look forward to a few good events with you in 2024. And
fantastic. Thank you so much, Angie. I really appreciate the interview.
Yeah.
Nice to talk with you in this format.
Yeah. Have a good rest of the day and a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.